Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Welcome for the Abhidhamma. We have so far completed the Chittas, types of consciousness that arise in the worlds of sensual, that means among us, the types of consciousness that are considered unwholesome. We know there are 12 types of consciousness. Whatsoever unwholesome is there within us, they are all based on those types of consciousness, 12 types of consciousness. Then we discussed about the types of consciousness that are wholesome. Whatever wholesome, meritorious, beautiful deeds that we perform, they should be based on those wholesome types of chittas. We know there are 8. And then we discussed about the types of consciousness which are rootless. Rootless in the sense, none of the roots belonging to unwholesome and wholesome are there in those chittas. And last week we talked about chittas in the meditation, or the fine material chittas, or chittas that arise when we are entering into the samadhi. In samadhi, what sort of chittas arise? We talked about them in our last class. Now today, we are moving from there onwards. Now we can see in the Buddha's vision that the topography of the world systems, or the Buddhist universe, is built upon the development or upgrade or degrade of the mind, we can say. The development of the mind is the criteria behind the world system that we know of. This is quite similar when we look at the Dhammapada, Mano Pubbangama Dhamma, Mano Siddha, then comes Manomaya. It is mind-made. Following the development of the mind, the world system is created. You generate your life after this, following your development of the mind. Now we know from the realms of sense pleasures, when you move on to the realms of fine material, then your development, following that development, your rebirth is decided in the realms of fine materials. Right? Let me share with you. Now, let's focus on the last lesson. I mean, in the sense that we discuss something about our last lesson because it is related to our current lesson. Now, we talked about these 5 jhanas: wholesome, resultant, functional. Now, we clearly know that when someone like you and me, someone belonging to this world, when they generate jhanas, those jhanas are usually belong to this level called wholesome. When they are giving resultants, resultant in the sense in the future life, in the life after this, when they give results, they are called the resultants. And the resultants are comparatively or exactly same as the current jhana, or the past life jhana. For example, if somebody is to have happen to develop the to the second level or the second jhana, and he passed away with the capability of attaining to the second jhana, then his rebirth is accordingly in the realms of Brahma or Brahma realms, which is belonging to the category of second jhana. Right? Let's say someone developed to the level of fourth jhana, but by the time he passed away, he has the potential to attain to the second jhana. So he won't be taking his rebirth in the level of fourth jhana. He will be taking birth according to his potential when he's passing away. That second jhana level of Brahma realms will be his where he is taking rebirth. This is something we have to understand, we have to keep in mind. Now, then comes the development of the jhana happens with the successive elimination or with the successive getting rid of the factors of the jhana. The object is a singular thing. You select an object out of the 40 objects of meditation. Yeah. There are a number of objects to be selected. And you develop your jhana on that object. On that object, you develop the jhana, you develop your meditative absorption. So you have to maintain that object. You cannot jump from one object to another. When you are developing, the development is marked by the successive elimination of jhana factors. We can say grosser jhana factors must be developed, must be eliminated for the development of the meditation. Now we can see the first jhana. How many factors are there? Initial application, sustained application, zest, happiness, one-pointedness. Yeah. All the factors are involved in the first jhana. When it comes to the second jhana, vitakka or initial application is gone. Only sustained application, zest, happiness, one-pointedness. In the third jhana, both initial and sustained applications are gone. Zest, happiness, one-pointedness are there. Fourth jhana, zest also gone. Happiness. I explained all this, both these terms, piti and sukha, zest and happiness, the difference in the last lesson. You can see, you can hear that in the video. Now, when it comes to the fifth jhana, what happens is sukha or happiness also gone. Replaced by what? Replaced by this equanimity, this noble feeling of moderateness. That equanimity is replaced all the feelings involved earlier. Piti, Sukha, both these feelings are replaced by Upekha, equanimity. And of course, one-pointedness is there throughout these 5 jhanas. Now, you can see that successive elimination of the factors are involved or mark the development of a jhana. That's one of the strong characteristic or very obvious characteristic when we talk about the 5 material sphere jhanas. Now, this is the 5th jhana, equanimity and one-pointedness. Remember, this is the end, or this is the pinnacle of jhanas. Whatever jhana further you achieve later, after that, all are based on these 2 factors, equanimity and one-pointedness. Yeah. If you further developed, that development is just an extension of the 5th jhana. Equanimity and one-pointedness are the factors. Now, the 5 jhanas are presented in Abhidhamma. In suttas, in the Sutta Pitaka, how many jhanas are presented? Anybody who knows? Anybody who knows about the jhanas or mental absorptions in the suttas? Can you please unmute and say the number, just the number? How many jhanas you know that are mentioned in the suttas? Now, this is Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma says there are 5 jhanas. How many jhanas are there in the suttas? Anybody? Just say the number.
4.
Right. Yes, exactly. There are 4 jhanas. 4 jhanas. How come in the Abhidhamma, the 5 jhanas, and it so happened in the suttas, only 4 jhanas are mentioned? The 4 jhanas happened via the same elimination or altogether. The vitakka and vichara both eliminated when it is reaching to the 2nd jhana. Right? We all know vitakka and vichara are in other words, vitakka and vichara are the meditation. Meditation is to bring your attention to the object and keep your attention there. I gave you examples of this in the last lesson. Now, vitakka and vichara is the meditation. Now, in the suttas, it says, when you reaches the 2nd jhana, both the vitakka and vichara becomes part of your life, part of your system. You no need to bring your attention, no need to keep the attention intentionally there. It is there. As soon as you sit down, your mind is concentrated, focused. You no need to bring your attention to the focus and forcefully keep it there. So by the time you reach the 2nd jhana, the suttas say vitakka and vichara both eliminated. Yeah, simultaneously eliminated. That's what the sutta says. So is Abhidhamma against the sutta teaching? That's the question to ask. By saying that when you reach at the 2nd stage, only vitakka is gone, then only in the 3rd jhana, yeah, that vichara is gone. So is it against the teachings of the Buddha? No. When we read the Majjhima Nikaya, we can see Buddha presents 3 kinds of concentration. In the Majjhima Nikaya, I think 102, 128 sutta. Yeah, we can see that Buddha says there are three types of concentration. First one is savitakka savichara samadhi. Concentration accompanied by both initial and sustained application. That means vitakka and vichara both involved. Yeah, that is the first jhana, right? Vitakka vichara piti sukha ekaggata. That's the first jhana. And then concentration with without initial application, but with sustained application. Avitakka vicharamatta samadhi. Now, this is nothing but the second jhana in the Abhidhamma. Second jhana in the Abhidhamma. The vitakka is not there, but the vichara is there. And the third one is with neither initial application, no sustained application. Avitakka avichara samadhi. Yeah, which is similar to the third jhana in the Abhidhamma and the second jhana in the suttas. Because second jhana in the suttas is simultaneous renunciation of vitakka and vichara. I think you got this. Yeah. So the Abhidhamma presentation of five jhanas are not against suttas at all, but a further extension following the teachings we find in the suttas. Now, with that, we go to the lesson that we are meant, that which is meant for today. It is called the Immaterial Spare Cittas. First one is fine material, rupavachara. This is immaterial. Yeah. Of course, from the level where the mind find that the body is the cause of misery. Yeah, the meditators, when they are continuously developing their consciousness, tend to find that the body is the cause behind all the misery. Those meditators, from the fifth jhana, they move towards the direction where they get rid of the attachment for the body. And the immaterial sphere cittas, arupavachara cittas, arise for those meditators who move beyond the body, who move to get rid of the attachment for the body. Immaterial, formless sphere, arupa bhumi. Formless sphere, translated to Pali, arupa bhumi. Bhumi is the sphere where these meditators are born. Yeah. For realms in which matter has been totally transcended, only consciousness and mental factors remain. When the matter is gone, matter is no more, the mind and mental factors, that's all. Rebirth into these four realms come about through the attainment of the arupa jhanas, the four immaterial, formless absorptions. Immaterial arupavachara. The fifth jhana of the rupavachara citta is separated from the form. Now we know the fifth jhana, panchama jhana, that upekha ekaggata sahita panchama jhana, yeah, that citta, when it is separated from the form and also when it is further developed, it moves into the immaterial sphere and becomes the first arupavachara citta. Fifth rupa jhana and the 12 arupa jhanas have the same two jhana factors of deep equanimity, upekka, and one-pointedness. Yeah. Hence, sometimes considered by the teachers of Abhidhamma as modes of the fifth jhana. So these arupavachara, there are four arupavachara jhanas. They are just extensions of the fifth jhana, or the modes of the fifth jhana, parts of the fifth jhana. That's what some meditators think. Meditator first needs to get fully skilled in abiding in the Rupavachara jhanas. This is the background. You have to be absolutely skillful or absolute mastery over the jhanas in the Rupavachara level. So, in that sense, one cannot get to the Arupavachara jhanas directly. No, it's not possible. You have to develop, you got to develop on the Rupavachara jhanas first. Yeah. Then then only Arupavachara jhanas can be developed. Now, this is something we are going to discuss in our future, when we are doing our last lesson. It's all about jhanas. It's all about uh, meditation. This will be further explained, further clarified. But for now, preliminary object, parikamma nimitta. Now, we all know one particular jhana, that is anapanasati, right? The breathing. So, the natural, normal, our own breathing is the parikamma nimitta. If it is a kasina object, that kasina object is the parikamma nimitta. If it is metta, may all living beings be well and happy. These words are the parikamma nimitta, preliminary object. Then visualized image or learning sign, uggaha nimitta. That means if it is the kasina sign, let's say a kind of a circular type of object, kind of a round circular object. Now you meditate upon that object continuously. Then that object is implanted. That object is clearly and strongly deposited in your system, in your mind. That means even when you look away, you can see the object of meditation as if you are seeing it. You get this? That parikamma nimitta is there, that basic object. You meditate observing that object for some time. Then after that, you look away. What happened? You can see that object as if you are seeing that preliminary object clearly and with details. That object which is implanted, that is, in your system, in your mind, called learning sign, uggaha nimitta. Yeah, it is not there exterior for you anymore. It is already in your system, uggaha nimitta, learning sign. Then what happened? When you meditate upon that learning sign which is in your system, now you meditate with closed eyes. You don't need to open eyes anymore because it is there within you. But your mind eye is watching that deposited object. And that deposited object you can manipulate as you wish. Make it large, make it small, or make it spread throughout the space infinitely, endlessly. You can spread it. You can do all sorts of things for that image that you have developed within you. So the preliminary object which was outside to you, then it became something inside you. Then you manipulate, you handle, you control, you do anything you wish to do for that image. So these are the three kinds of images actually. Yeah, preliminary, visualized, and conceptualized. You can understand with these words itself, right? So these are the types of objects when we are practicing, when we are developing our jhanas. Yeah. Now, when we come to the conceptualized image, as I said, that image you got to your system can be handled by according to your or following your wish and aspiration. As you wish, you can handle that image. Even you can spread it to the entire space. Yeah, you can make a concept as that that image is covering the entire space, spreading over entire space. What I just said is here, the meditator who has mastered the fifth fine material jhana based on kasina object spreads the counterpart sign or the kasina until it becomes immeasurable in extent. This is conceptualizing. This is not something actually happening, okay? This is conceptualizing within. Yeah. So it is called conceptualized image. Then he removes the kasina. Now, let's say he was focusing on yellow kasina or yellows, the color of yellow or color of red or color of earth, you know. Now he was spreading it, and after that, he just removed that color. He removed that yellow, he removed that earth color, earthly color, or removed that red. Then what happened? Only the space is there. And that space is infinite. That is space is endless. Now this is conceptualized space. That space is infinite. Now his focus is gone to that endless space. He concentrate upon that space and start meditating on that endless space. Yeah. This is the beginning of that arupavachara formless jhana. Right? So types of formless consciousness, 12 chittas, consisting of 4 wholesome, 4 resultant, 4 functional. Just like the Rupavachara chittas, 5 wholesome, 5 resultants, 5 functional. We all know now about these functional chittas, to whom they arise. They arise for the Buddhas, for the Arahants, who have nothing to do with the sansaric journey anymore, who have stopped their rebirth. So if they develop jhana, fine material or immaterial, what happened? Their jhana are just a function without resultants. The 4 types of consciousness, what are they? Infinite space. Akasananchayatana. Yeah, you better get familiar with this term. Nose is little bit involved. Yeah, you have to use your nose when you pronounce this, some of the words. Akasananchayatana, nanchayatana. Then comes infinite consciousness. Vinyana, vinyananchayatana. Nothingness. Akinchanyayatana. Neither perception nor non-perception. Neva sanya, na sanyayatana. These are the types of immaterial consciousness or immaterial meditative absorptions that we are going to discuss. Akasananchayatana, vinyananchayatana, akinchanyayatana, neva sanyana sanyayatana. Yeah. So let's explain this. Akasananchayatana. Akasa ananta ayatana. That's the separation. Yeah. So this is a compound term of three words. Akasa. Akasa, all Sinhalese know this word. Akasa, that's space. That's the sky above. Yeah. Ananta, also Sinhalese know this. Ananta means endless. Ayatana, of course, base or some kind of object. So the object or the base of infinite space, akasa, ananta, ayatana, is when they are compound, when it is compound, becomes akasananchayatana. Refer to the concept of infinite space. I say it is not about actual infinite space. That infinite space is the conceptualized via that spreading of the kasina throughout the space. Right? So it is called the conceptualized one, which serves as the object of the first immaterial sphere consciousness. Ayatana base has the sense of habitat or dwelling of the chittas of the jhana. So ayatana is has the meaning of where the chitta exits. Yeah. Vinyananchayatana. Vinyana ananta ayatana. This is the base of infinite consciousness. Vinyana is consciousness. Ananta, infinite. Now, as I said, what happened to that meditator who got rid of that casino object? Casino is a material object. He got rid of it, then he focused the space where this casino object was spread, extended, that infinite space. Right? Now he meditate upon it and develop that jhana, akasa anantayatana jhana, akasa ananta ayatana jhana. Yeah, that meditative absorption on the infinite space. Now he moves to the consciousness within himself that associated with that infinite space. And he considered that consciousness as something infinite, something infinite, endless. Because that consciousness is what concentrated upon that infinite space. Right? So, concentrating upon that infinite consciousness, when he is practicing, that absorption arises, also designated under the same name, that is Vinyananchayatana, meditative absorption, the jhana based upon the infinite consciousness. So consciousness here is said to be infinite. That's to say, consciousness of the first immaterial absorption. Yeah, as I said, the consciousness involved with the first jhana, which is the infinite space. Since the first immaterial absorption has as its object the base of infinite space, this implies that the consciousness which pervades that space as its object also partakes in its infinity. To reach this, the meditator takes the base of infinite space as the object and contemplates it as infinite consciousness until the second immaterial absorption arises. Yeah. So the mind, consciousness that concentrated upon that infinite space is the object when he reaches that second level of formless meditative absorption, arupavachara jhana. akinchanyayatana. Akinchi, nattikinchi. Nattikinchi means there is nothing whatsoever. Now, this is something we have to understand. In Buddhism, whenever say there is nothing whatsoever, it means emptiness, voidness, but it doesn't mean actually there is nothing. It means nothing to take as something substantial, something permanent. That's what it is meant. There is nothing to take as something permanent, substantial, something lasting, because everything is impermanent. So the meditator, based upon his understanding on the things that are impermanent, that are changing, momentary, based on that personal understanding, he looks at his absorption. Yeah, looks at his concentration upon the voidness or secluded aspect in his consciousness. He concentrated on his consciousness as something infinite, something endless. And he finds there is nothing substantial in it. Everything there is impermanent. Everything is there is just arising and vanishing, nothing to be attacked. I mean, nothing to be attached, nothing to be grasping. They are just temporary things. This is the Buddhist understanding, or this is the Buddha's understanding when he was meditating. And this is the understanding of all the meditators when they are continuously practicing. So, with that understanding that these are temporary things that happens in my consciousness, what happened? He develops this concept that concept of nothingness, and he practices on that concept, nattikinchi, right? So you can see the second point, natti bhava panyati. That's the word. Panyati is the concept of nothingness. So on that concept, when he's continuously practicing, there arises this meditative absorption. It called what? Akinchanyayatana. Akinchanyayatana. Akinchi, nattikinchi. He is based or established upon that understanding. There is nothing in this world to be hold on to. So we have to understand that Buddhism is, Theravada Buddhism is not talking about that Shunyatavad. In other schools of Buddhism like Mahayana, Vajrayana, they talk about Shunyata, teaching of emptiness. But Theravada Buddhism does not talk directly about it, but it is there within us. It is there in the system, that in the sense it is empty, it is void, it is secluded, in the sense of nothing substantial is there. With the experience of this impermanence, the meditator understands there is nothing to take as something permanent. So in that sense, nattikinchi. There is nothing substantial. So, but we have to understand, when they understood that there is nothing, it doesn't mean there is nothing. It means there is nothing permanent. Just like anatta, no self. It doesn't mean there is no self. It means there is no permanent self. This something which is there is always changing, momentary. momentary. So there is no permanent self. That's what it is meant. Yeah, you may argue, some people argue with this, I mean, may argue against it, following that word literally, that anatta. But anatta, Lord Buddha, when you read the suttas, you can find that anatta does not mean there is no self. Because he gives the example why it is called anatta. It is anatta because there is no permanence, there is no substantial, there is no lasting entity there. It is always changing. That's why it is anatta. So he doesn't mean no self, he means no permanent self, right? If it is no permanent self, in fact, it is no self. But when we say no self, we people may understood as Buddhism is some kind of a materialism. With the death, everything gone. Because there is no self. Buddha means there is no permanent self. Then comes the last one. Neva sanya na sanyayatana. Neva sanya na sanyayatana. Neither perception, no non-perception. You know the five aggregates: form, that is body. Yeah. Then comes what? Feelings. Now, when somebody is dead, can you think any of the feelings there in that body? You touch him, can he feels? You do something painful, can he feel? Nothing. That means once the consciousness is out, feeling is not there. The feeling is not perceived, perception is not there. Yeah. Then that reaction is not there, sankhara is not there. Of course, altogether consciousness is not there. Right? Vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana is not there. All are part of the mind. So perception here represent the entire mind. What is that entire mind? Feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness. Feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness. So these four aggregates are not there in the dead body. That's why he cannot feel or he doesn't react. So here, remember, this perception represents the entire mental aggregate, entire psyche, entire mind, right? So neva sanya na sanyayatana means by this stage, the mind has become so subtle. Consciousness has become so invisible, unobvious, has become so smooth, as if it is there or not there, to the level that consciousness could be there or not there. To that level, the consciousness has become refined, has become so subtle. Yeah. So without saying the consciousness, the meditators or those who practice understand or expressed the perception. The sanya is so subtle, but we have to understand that sanya represents the entire aggregate of mind. The second point, in this type of consciousness, the factor of perception, sanya, has become so subtle that it can no longer perform the decisive function of perception. And thus, this state cannot be said to have perception. Yet, perception is not altogether absent, but remains in a residual form. Thus, it cannot be said not to have perception. So, the perception has become so subtle as if it is there and not there, something like that. Yeah. But remember, When it is said perception, it means the entire mental aggregate. That's why I put in the third point, although perception alone is mentioned, all the other mental constituents also exist in a state of such extreme subtlety that they cannot be described as either existent or non-existence. Yeah. The fourth immaterial absorption takes as its object the consciousness of the base of nothingness. So, what is the object for the fourth jhana? The third jhana is the object. The third immaterial absorption. You can see the first jhana, immaterial jhana, about the space, and then it was directed to the consciousness, and the third jhana arose seeing the nothingness in the consciousness, and the fourth jhana arose due to the concentration upon the third jhana, on that nothingness. Now, two types of object. Object, Pali word is alambana. One is the object to be directly comprehended by the chitta of the object that should be hung on to alambita. Yeah. So the object that should be attached to, that should be concentrated upon. Yeah. Alambitabha. That's the first type. The second type of object is the object to be transcended or must be gone beyond. Atikkamitabha. So the two kinds of object here is the object to be hang on to and the object to be gone beyond or to be removed, to get rid of. Alambitabha, atikkamitabha. Now, following these four types of immaterial jhanas, base of infinite space, akasa ananta ayatana. Yeah, remember? Akasa ananta ayatana, right? What is the apprehension? Concept of space. What is to be transcended? We transcend that concept of kasina. Do you remember? I said, remove that color, remove that kasina and concentrate upon the space which was being covered by that kasina, right? So concept of kasina is transcended, then apprehended the concept of space. Then comes the base of infinite consciousness. Consciousness of infinite space. Consciousness of infinite space. Now the object is that consciousness covered that infinite space. What is transcended? Concept of space is transcended. Then comes the base of nothingness, nattikinchi, akinchanyayatana, right? Apprehended concept of non-existence of the first arupa jhana. Yeah, this in this space, concept of space. Yeah, that consciousness existed in that space is nothing, nattikinchi. Yeah, that is apprehended. Then what is extended? Consciousness of infinite space is transcended. Then comes the last one, base of neither perception nor non-perception. What is apprehended? Consciousness of nothingness. What is transcended? Concept of non-existence of the first arupa jhana. Yeah, that concept is transcended. So this is what happened as for the apprehension and transcending. Alambana atikkamita. Yeah. In that two sense, the four immaterial jhanas, the rising, yeah, that hierarchy happens in that in the senses of alambana and atikkam, to be hang on to be transcended. The first and third jhanas. What are the first and third jhana? First one is akasananchayatana. Third one is akinchanyayatana. First one is the infinite space. Third one is nothingness. Right? Have the concepts as their objects. So they are just concepts. Concepts generated by the mind, generated with that concentration. The second and fourth jhana have the first and third absorption consciousness as their object. Understood? So the second jhana object is the first jhana. The fourth jhana object is the third jhana. Now the difference between these two jhanas, Rupa jhana and Arupa jhanas. Rupa jhana can take various subjects such as different kasinas. There are Patavi kasino, Apo kasino, Tejo kasino, Vayo kasino. There are a number of jhanas, Buddha Nussati, Dhamma Nussati, Chaga Nussati, Devata Nussati, Sangha. 40 different objects are there for meditation. You may select your meditation object according to your character, according to your attitudes that you are born with, and meditate. There are a number of meditation objects to select. Arupa jhanas, do you have that choice? Apprehends just one object specific to itself. Arupa jhanas arise only via following the arupa. Arupa means formless. What is the formless? The space. So only one object is there to begin. Rupa jhanas, they differ from each other with respect to the jhana factors. I told you in the very beginning. Following the jhana factors, whether you contain this much of jhana factors or that much of jhana factors. That's the decisive point to decide your development. Arupa jhanas, the progress from the fifth Rupa jhana to the first Arupa jhana, and from one Arupa jhana to the next. There are no more jhana factors to be transcended. So Arupa jhanas all depend on, based upon the fifth jhana factors. What are they? Upekha, Ekaggata, equanimity, one-pointedness. Rupa jhanas. The meditator who wishes to attain to the higher jhanas keeps the same object and eliminates each successively more subtle factor until he reaches the fifth jhana. As you are continuously practicing, as you are getting the knack of concentration, and as you have seen the nature of the factors of the jhana, what happened? You successively eliminate them and reaches the fifth jhana. Arupa jhanas, meditator progresses by transcending each successively more subtle object. Rupa jhanas, the object is just the same, but the jhana factors are eliminated. Here in the Arupa jhanas, jhana factors remain as the fifth jhana, but transcending the object. From space to the consciousness, then nothingness, then to that subtle form of the mind, neither perception nor non-perception. That subtle form of the mind. So objects are changed, transcended, to more subtle objects. Now again, the Pali words and English translations are there. I give you the Pali word, you repeat after me, and you read the English. Akasananchayatana kusala citta. Vinyananchayatana Vinyananchayatana Kusala Citta Akinchanyayatana Kusala Citta Neva Sanya Na Sanyayatana Kusala Citta. Yeah. So Kusala Citta, you know why Kusala Citta? Kusala Citta belong to whom? Belong to the trainees. Trainees are who? Trainees are the noble individuals who are in Sotapanna stream entry, once return, Sakadagami, and non-return, Anagami. Yeah, these are the trainees. They haven't attained to Arhat yet. Yeah, they are the trainees. And you and me, the others, the normal people, we can meditate and meditate in our meditation. These chittas become kusala chittas. Then, when we take rebirth, if we happen to attain to these stages and take rebirth somewhere, following that kusala chitta, the vipaka chitta, resultant chittas arise. And the resultant chittas are just the same. Akasananchayatana vipaka chitta, Vinyananchayatana vipaka chitta, Akinchanyayatana vipaka chitta, Neva sanya nasanyayatana vipaka chitta. Yeah. Following the potential of the jhana you contain, you have when you die. According to that potential, you don't need to die in the jhana. You don't need to die meditating. You just have the potential. When you meditate, you get that jhana. With that potential, your successive, your consequence life is decided. Manomaya, your mind generates next life. Ideal example here. Yeah. Then comes the functionals. We already know to whom these functionals arise. To arhants, to buddhas. When they develop this jhana, they are just functioning in the sense they don't have the potential to give rebirth. That's the meaning. Yeah? No potential of rebirth. Akasananchayatana kiriya chitta, vinyananchayatana kiriya chitta, akinchanyayatana kiriya chitta. Neva sanyana sanyayatana kiriya chitta. Kiriya chitta, functional consciousness. Now we know there are 15 fine material sphere chittas, again, kusala vipaka kriya. 12 immaterial sphere chittas, again, kusala vipaka kriya. Right? They are together called Mahagata Chittas. Mahagata is sublime. Sublime. Mahagata, gone higher, gone great. That's the meaning. Mahagata, sublime. They arise for beings of noble nature, for the meditators. They are sublime, lofty, or exalted consciousness, free from hindrances. Yeah, we know the hindrances, right? Panchanivarana are and are pure, elevated, great states of mind. So, therefore, they are called what? Mahagata Chittas. The Chittas discussed so far, 54 in world of sense pleasures, Kama Loka. Yeah? 15 fine material Rupa Loka, 12 immaterial Arupa Loka. All these Chittas collectively termed what? Lokiya Chittas, mundane consciousness. You see, even fine material and immaterial Chittas, it doesn't matter. You are still belong to this cycle of birth and death. You can be reborn in the greatest Brahma world, attaining to the immaterial jhanas. Still, you haven't got rid of your defilements. They are just being suppressed. That's all. They are not eliminated. So you are to return once the karmic energy is over. You are to return to the world again, to the realms of any lower place you might be returning. So still, Lokiya Chitta, mundane consciousness. All right, that's it. We have completed the immaterial sphere Chittas. Next week, we will be discussing the uh, supramundane Chittas. We conclude this lesson on the immaterial sphere Chittas. We do a short blessing. May you all have a beautiful weekend. Yeah. Sabbityo vachantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatvantarayo sukhi dirghayuko bhavat bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada satti bhavantu te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.